Okay, on this part of the video, we are going to go ahead and add a footer and also a navigation bar. But before we move on, I want to change something here real quick, and that is the height of this image. So if we come here and we select the main container, we can see that it has a height of fit. If we select this white part, it has a height of fill. And if we select the image itself, it has a fixed height of 600. Now what this means is that everything is adjusting to the size of the image because it is fixed. So let's change that to 500 for example, and as you can see, everything adjusted to the size of that image. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and let's add a footer first. Now if we come here to insert, we can see that under sections we do not have a footer that's being pre-made for us. However, if you go to pages and let's say you add a page, now here under pages, let me delete this one real quick. You can see that another page has been added. So we have the home page that we were working on and a new page. Now on this page that's pre-made by Framer, we have a footer down here. If we click on it and we go to layers, we can see that that's a footer right there. So we're gonna go ahead and right click on it, and we're going to copy and go back to pages, click the home page, go back to layers, make sure the main container is selected, and then you can command or control V to paste that footer. Now that's been pasted inside of the main container. Remember, it's always important to keep things organized. Okay, let's see what we have on this footer. So if we click on it, we have a footer that has two text inside, or two layers of text inside, and the footer is set to fill, but it also has a max width of 1,000 pixels, and due to that, it's filling up the space up to the parameter of 1,000 pixels. If I were to remove that, it's going to stretch all the way. Now here's the thing, I want to change the color of the actual footer. So if I come here and I change it to, let's say, black, there's a space in white, and that doesn't look too good. Now the problem is that this white space is the color of the main container. So if I change that to black as well, it looks good. However, up here, since this is inside of the main container as well with no fill in the background, now it has this black line on the sides. So in order to avoid that, what we're going to do is we are going to select the actual footer and we're going to eliminate the max width. We're going to remove that, and now the text is being pushed to the size. Now if we select the footer and we change the color, it's gonna get changed to black, and it's not going to affect the area up here. All right, so we have that footer. Let me change this information here real quick, and we're gonna do something like sample page by AJ 2025. All right, and here we're going to change that to United States. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna leave it like that since this is just a sample, and down here this is where you will put your links, your social media links, and every other link that is not that important. Remember, it's always good to have a a footer in your Framer page for SEO purposes. Now let's add that navigation bar at the top, and lucky for you, Framer already has some pre-made navigation. So if we come here and we go to insert, we can come to sections, navigations, and then here we have a bunch of navigations to choose from. Now I'm gonna go ahead and pick a simple one for this purpose, and since I chose black for the footer, I'm gonna keep the same color contrast and select a black navigation. All right, let's exit by hitting insert, and now we have our navigation here. We want to move this all the way to the top, but this time don't put it inside the main container. Let's put it outside, inside of the desktop. All right, and now if we scroll up, we have our navigation. Now let's test this, and there you go. You have navigation at the top and you have the footer at the bottom. Now the navigation at the top is a little thin, I should say. I want to make this a little bit thicker, and also I want the navigation to stay in place, but now it's scrolling with the page. So how do we do that? All right, let's exit out of that, and we're gonna go ahead with the navigation selected. You can see here it has a height of 64 as a fit setup. Okay, now we're gonna change that to, let's say, something like 84, and let's give that a shot, and yeah, it looks better. Also, this scrolls with the page. In order to make this stay in place, we're gonna select the navigation and change the positioning from relative to fixed. Now let's give this a shot, and there you go. Now it's thicker, and if I scroll, it'll stay in place. Perfect. Now let's do a couple more things. We're gonna go ahead and go inside of it and make some changes, but before I do that, I want to point out that out here, as you can see, for this particular component, which is the navigation, you can change the way that it behaves. Right now it's pinned to the top at 0 pixels. If I were to put 100 pixels here, it's gonna push it down. The distance is 100 pixels, but it's gonna get pinned to the top just with the space in between of 100 pixels. For instance, let's test it, and as you can see, that's where it stays. So this is not ideal for navigation, but hey, you have your own way of designing. Just be creative and do your thing. Okay, now let's remove that and put 0 here, and again, you can do the same thing. You can pin it to the sides and the bottom. Just experiment with it. All right, now let's go by inside of this by double clicking, and here we can see a desktop / tablet bar, navigation bar, and then we have the phone version of it, closed and open. This is already done by Framer, guys. Take advantage and use this, and as you build, you're gonna get better and you're gonna understand how things work, and you can start making your own. But if you are just starting with Framer, you can just use this and it works really well. Now let's come up here and always make changes to the primary component, because it's gonna cascade, and every other component is gonna take whatever changes you make here. They're gonna just cascade over to them. For instance, if I come here and if I were to change the color of that to red, you see everything changes to red because you're making the changes on the first or the primary component. All right, now let's make some cool changes here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this a little bit more transparent. So instead of 100%, let's do something like 84%, and we are going to go ahead with the desktop primary component selected. We're going to add under styles, click that plus, and we're gonna go to filters and BG blur, which stands for background blur. Now click on that, and it has a blur of 5. I'm gonna set it to 10. I don't advise that you set this higher than 10 for performance purposes. All right, now you can't see it right now, but if you come outside to home and we give this a let's play it and see how it looks, you can see that you can kind of see the background as you scroll through it, but it's also been blurred, so you can barely see it, and this gives it a nice, very nice effect to it. One more thing that you can do, this is something that I like to do, is I like to give this a little bit of a shadow so that it gives the illusion that it's sticking up or outside the page. So let's go ahead and go inside that navigation again, and we're gonna go ahead and select a shadow right here. So with the component selected, you can go down to shadows, and this is gonna be under styles, okay? And click add, and there you go, you have a shadow that's been added. Now you can play around with these settings. You can go to the color, change the opacity of the shadow and the color of the shadow. You can change the Y direction, how far you want it to go up or down, and how big you want that blur to be, or the spread of the blur. I'm gonna change that to something like 12. the spread of 12, and then this one I'm gonna change it to 2. Now let's go back home and hit play. Let's see how that looks. Now if we come to a section that's lighter, you can see the shadow popping up right there a little bit. If you want to exaggerate this, what you can do is go back inside, go to the shadows, and under the color, instead of 25, you can bring this to 50. And let's see. And if we test this, now you can see the shadow a little bit more. All you have to do is experiment, guys, and this gives it a nice look. Again, this is something that I would do on my pages, but you can do whatever you like. All right, now let's do something really cool, since this is just a one-page design, and these links, we're gonna convert that to, we're gonna put the names of each section. That is why it's important to name your sections. This is for the purpose of keeping order. And now we're going to add a section to each section. And what does that mean? For instance, let's come here to the main container. Not the main container, the first section right here, which is the hero. And we're going to come down here. Not this one, I'm sorry, the features section, this one. And we're going to come scroll down. We're going to add a scroll section. Hit that plus, and we are going to call it features. Okay, hold on, I misspelled that. All right, now we are going to click the next section, and we're gonna call that, scroll down, scroll section, add, we're gonna call that CTA features 2. I'm gonna come down here, scroll section, and do the same thing, features 2. There you go. And then for the FAQ, we're gonna do the same thing, keep it simple, and call it FAQ. All right. Now for the footer, we don't have to do that because we're not gonna scroll down to the footer. Now the reason why we did that is so that we can actually scroll down to each particular section. So if we come here and let's call it, let's see, let me go back here, and we have feature CTA features 2. So let's come up here, and 1, 2, 3. The other 2 we don't need, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just hide this for now. And here I'm gonna call this features CTA and features 2. All right, and then if we select them individually, features, you can come here, you can add a link, and then select here under page home, and then the section name is going to be features. And now here under new tab, you select no, and scroll, instead of instance you put smooth. All right, let's go to CTA and do the same thing, add a link, page is going to be home, section is going to be CTA, don't open a new tab, smooth scrolling. And let's repeat the process here, link, page, home, features 2, and smooth. Now the text changed to blue because we have a styling of link, since we are only dealing with text here. But don't worry about that for now. Let's just see if this works. Now we'll go to hit play, and up here we have features. Here, let me show the UI so you can see it better. Features, and it's gonna scroll to features, CTA, and then features 2. And there you go. That's a really cool way to just add some styling to your page, guys. And with that done, guys, you have an amazing little page that we did in just a few minutes, and I'm really taking my time explaining this. But once you learn Framer, you can do this in like 30 minutes or less. All right, but remember, don't rush. Just make sure that you do things your way and you do things properly. On the last section, I'm going to show you how to add the breakpoints and how to adjust things so that it looks amazing right before you hit publish.